So here I have the orchestral project, which is the previous video I did on my channel. I'll show you what exactly I did to most of the tracks to make them sound bigger and make the track come alive. Now what we have here are the low and high strings selected. Now what you can see is it's got Replika and a direction mixer on it. Now we're going to turn off the direction mixer. We're focusing on the Replika. So if we open it up here, you can see it's actually more of a delay plugin. So it's normally set on modern and it would be a slower time. Let's go there. We'll play it now. Might sound a bit weird, to be honest. So you can hear the delay. It actually sounds kind of cool, but I wouldn't use it. So what I have it on is the fastest time in the dotted selection and diffusion. So it's almost like a reverb really. And if we hear it now, it fills the gaps that the staccato strings create. Now if I was to play it without the Replika plugin on it, still sounds good, but it's just lacking something. Now I'm going to go through all of my tracks and turn off Replika. As you can see, I've got it on most of my tracks. We move it on further, and the last bit. Obviously, a normal reverb could do the same thing on Space Designer perhaps, but I have not found anything that sounds as good and fills in the gaps as much as the Replika diffusion does. You can hear the audio tail on it such a long time because of its diffusion. If you're going to do an ending like I have, where you've got a sub drop and then into a stab, or anything where there's a sort of pause and then a stab, you're going to have to automate the Replika because it's just going to go on for too long and it's going to take away the feeling from that gap that you've left. As you can see, I've automated the mix from roughly where it was, so let's say 50% on average for everything, down to 0, and then back up for the last stab. As you can see, Replika is generally the standard plugin that I use for most of my instruments, especially if it's orchestral tracks, but I do change the mix on it. Usually it's at 50-50, but depending on the instrument I do turn it down. I never go above 50, it never needs it. Now another trick that I have, which is probably a bit more common, is sample delay, and you can see it on a few of my tracks here. Essentially what sample delay does is delays one side of the stereo track. So as you can see here, I've delayed the right side by a very small amount of samples. What this does is sort of create a stereo image more than what was already there. So if we listen to it with the sample delay, now without the sample delay, it's slightly more centered. I'll play it without it and then with it for one long run. You can hear this slight difference because one is slightly delayed on the right side. makes it sound like you're almost hitting two drums very, very closely, or as if you've got two sticks on a snare or a tom and you've just hit them ever so slightly out of sync, just to humanize it and make it wider. It's just a good and easy way to spread things out and create a bit more of a stereo image. The last tip I have is using Direction Mixer to widen the stereo field in your piece of music. So I have it on a few of my tracks here, but I'll be primarily looking at the low-high strings. So I'm going to open up the Direction Mixer. As you can see, it's quite a simplistic plugin, and we're only going to be looking at the spread function of this plugin at the moment. So what I'm going to do first is play the strings track without the Direction Mixer on it first, and then I'll play it with it on. Now I'm going to turn it on. As you can probably hear, it sounds a little bit quieter when it's turned on, but that's because it's mixed equally into both left and right because of the spread. Now, usually this spread is on 1, so that is standard stereo. So with the spread being at 1.6, it means there is still some going through the center like there originally was if the Direction Mixer plugin wasn't on at all, but it also means there's some going through the left, some going through the right, and I don't have to choose between left or right, which you would have to do if you're choosing panning. I prefer using Direction Mixer rather than panning on section instruments, such as strings or woodwind, so that the stereo field is still equal. So there you have it, there's my 3 tips for making your track sound wider and bigger. Thanks for watching.